Gotten the new job as we speak now, and well, we're gonna be speaking to him at the moment. And of course, our guest just didn't want to blow your moment away, because Peter actually took us by surprise there concerning your appearance here on our show. Bonang Mohale is our guest for this afternoon. Of course, Leadership South Africa is gearing itself for a new change in leadership since the unexpected departure of the CEO, who's right here with me. So Mr. Mohale has been at the helm since 2017 and can now claim bragging rights of acting decisively in disciplining some BLSA members for breaking the ethical code and also paving the way for a succession plan, which we'll talk about in a moment. So he joins us to reflect on his leadership at BLSA and, of course, the South African economy. Mr. Mohale, thank you very much for coming in tracksuits for the first time on our show.
I could not wait to get out of the jacket and the tie, so thank you very much for having me.
Is this a leadership gone too soon scenario?
No, not really. Remember, this was planned, and I'm absolutely excited to be leaving a warrior of a woman, incredible, good quality human being, SABC as the new CEO of Business Leadership South Africa. When I was headhunted from early retirement at age 55 from running Shell Oil Products Africa, where I was their group CEO and the chairman, I was asked by these CEOs to be their CEO, and I said on one condition and one condition only, just for 12 months. They gave me 12 KPIs. Let me just talk about two. One, they said, please populate this organization with high caliber individuals. And number two, go and look for your own successor with the express understanding that the board will make the final decision. Right. So when I finished a year, then the board said, look, it was in the height of state capture, of corruption, bribery, stealing and cheating. They said, well, don't you want to do this for another 5 more years? And I said, why would I want to do that? So to cut a long story short, we ended up saying, we accept that SABC is ready. We have done everything possible working with her for a year, but I will give you on persuasion 12 more months. And that expired at midnight on the 30th of June, 2019. So I'm a free man.
Do you think that the South African economy is hanging on a shoestring? And when it comes to exposure to the world economic woes, the country could be skating on thin ice?
There's no doubt that we are in a spot of bother. When you look at the impact of the 9 wasted years and you try and quantify state capture, you can't lose 1.5 trillion South African rands in 4 years and still be standing. We were estimating that for the last 9 years, we were siphoning off, on average, about 100 billion rands just to the 2 Zupta families. When you look at the 4 commissions of inquiry, BUSASA, VBS, the going-ons at Transnet, at Eskom, it leaves you with no doubt that we are poor by choice. The choice of leadership that we made, that forgot their mandate to look in the best interest of South Africa Inc. to improve the quality of lives of the majority of our people. But they were immersed in, it is my turn to eat too, industrial scale looting of gigantic proportions.
When I pick up from where we left off the last time, we promised our viewers that we will engage on this issue of corruption in the country. But now the question is, it's an indictment on South Africa to get some heads rolling. But the problem here is the pushback factor. And it seems like the heads are not coming off the bodies.
But you know, we need to be kind to ourselves. When we were gifted on the 19th of December 2017 with a new president of the ANC, and in February, on Valentine's Day, the best gift ever, when a sitting president decided to resign, the very next day we inaugurated President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa. We knew that we had our last chance, not our second chance. And he made 23 changes with his first cabinet reshuffle. He got rid of 10 ministers. Oh, there were some that he left, but he promised us 3 things. That first, there'll be a cabinet reshuffle. Number 2, this is a rule, that the country of laws, not of men. And then lastly, that his cabinet is too bloated. And since then, I think he has promised and delivered on all those 3.
I would like us now to reflect deeper on the South African economy, and you were addressing the Ubuntu Foundation recently, and I want to quote you. You said, for the past 20 years, we loved it when ratings agencies said South Africa is a springboard. And then over the last few years, when Fitch, Standard & Poor's downgraded us, we suddenly asked, who are these ratings agencies? So are you insinuating that South Africa is a political, socio-economic hypocrite?
Absolutely. So we were very happy to put it in our marketing brochures to say we are the most industrialized, the country with the most presence of multinationals, that we house a number of number ones and number twos in terms of minerals that are extracted from the ground, that indeed we are probably the third, if not the second biggest economy in the world. But when the wheels are now turned because of self-harm, because of self-inflicted pain, cutting our own nose to spite our own face, now we start questioning the veracity, the legitimacy of rating agencies. We forgot that when Dr. Ruel Khoza was the chairman of Eskom, it had a ratings higher than sovereign. We enjoyed the fact that they could raise money cheaper than the country could, and therefore we were beneficiaries.
When we have to turn the South African economy, the issue of unemployment and also unions negotiating with employers seem to take a hardline stance. Let's just use this interview that has just taken place between Peter right now concerning the unions saying that they won't be Durban July because they are saying their way or the highway when there's an event, the Durban July, that has to take place. What do you say about the attitudes of unions? Because in your last speech, you were saying that actually you have reservations about unions when it comes to salary increase negotiations, that they don't negotiate prudently with the employers and they are weighing down on the economy.
And I think I was also raising another fact that, you know, business is accountable to its shareholders and to the broader public. Government is accountable to the electorate. Who is the labor unions responsible to? And who do they account to? Because we have seen how some unions would not sign on an offer deal 5 months later to come and accept the same deal, when you and I know that if you go on strike for just 1 month, you must get a more than 8% salary increase to be at the same level, or more if you want to make progress. After 5 months, you sign the same deal. It is irresponsible at the very least. But also we know that some unions will go to war when companies are in trouble, in a spot of bother, their profitability is actually threatened, for them to be globally competitive. Then they say, no, but let's destroy the very same company so that out of 10,000 jobs, instead of losing 400, now you destroy the other 9,600. It doesn't sound to be very wise to me. Lastly, we have also heard that unions would not act in the best interest of South Africa Inc., but they'll always act in the best interest of their employers, even if it kills the country, even if it kills Eskom, because Eskom is the fourth means of production. Without it, this economy cannot function. In fact, when Eskom goes down, not only does the economy collapse, the whole South African fabric collapses.
Let's look at South Africa's economic heydays. You were speaking about the era of President Thabo Mbeki, former President Thabo Mbeki, when you were saying that, he said at that time, you know, unemployment, or rather, you were saying that during his tenure, if he had continued, unemployment today would be 16% and GDP growth will be 6%. So with the current economic challenges, do you think that President Ramaphosa's car is only idling, but it's struggling to get into the first gear, perhaps because of the steepy economic global woes? Would you say that at the moment, what is hampering South Africans' economy to get on the right trajectory is because of the internal factors?
In fact, yes to both of those questions. So first of all, I was continuing with that conversation that says, let's try and quantify the lost opportunity. Because Rolihlahla Nelson Mandela inherited a technically bankrupt country, but in 5 years quadrupled the size of the GDP of this country. He hands over seamlessly in a world-class act to President Thabo Mbeki, who then gives us 43 consecutive quarters of positive GDP growth. We add 500,000 families into the middle class. We say, had we continued on that trajectory, In fact, unemployment will not be 27.6%, but 16%. On an expanded basis, not 38%. And we are saying that we would have actually GDP growth of 6%, not 0.8 that we clocked last year. Lastly, I was saying that we would have banked 1 trillion South African rands, because it only takes us a year to collect 1.4 trillion as per the current SARS targets, having refunded, of course, those people that are due their refunds.
Okay, just lastly now, what do you think about South African business organizations operating in silos, singing different tunes, especially with the common denominator being race? Black leadership, there's also white leadership, there's the broader bond. What do you think about getting a synergy amongst them, BLSA, BMF, BUSA, the broader bond and the likes? Couldn't there just be one voice of business, because there's one economy that can be achieved in South Africa?
Absolutely. So we are on record as BLSA having said that all of us collectively have not succeeded in defeating the legacy of apartheid. We are on record as having said that Business Unity South Africa, or BUSA for short, was a creation of Rolihlahla Nelson Mandela, because at that time there were 127 organizations. He wanted to deal with only one, a single voice of business. We also know that it was as a direct result of state capture that a certain former president of the BMF decided to pull out the BMF out of BUSA and thereby recreated BBC, which in hindsight we should not have actually disbanded. But the intent was not wholesome. The intent was not servicing our members. The intent was to continue aiding and abating state capture. Since we have been in office at BLSA, just in the last 2 years, we have had numerous conversations with the Black Business Council to say, let's look at recreating a single voice of business, whether it's called BUSA or anything else, but let's do that.
What's your warning to your successor?
I think I only have warm things to say to her. She needs to think very carefully about her legacy, especially in reversing the legacy of the British Empire when it handed over the state of South Africa in 1910 to the Afrikaners because they had land. Only 3 things at that time. 1, continue to deliver the diamonds and the gold to us, and will determine the price and ensure that South Africa becomes a cheap crucible of labor. 25 years into democracy, we have not reversed that. So she needs to think very carefully, together with the 86 CEOs, to say, how do we lead as business to ensure that the majority of our people, we take the bottom half into the middle class?
All right, we'll talk about Bidvest next time in our interview. For now, thank you very much for talking to us, and congratulations on your legacy.
Well, I'm a non-executive director. I'm still on leave.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Bonang Mohale, the outgoing CEO of Business Leadership South Africa, talking to us right here on SABC News.